Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption.
Good evening, everybody. Militia Man and Crew. Just wanted to say hello and let you guys know we're going to just jump in, get started, and talk about a few articles that came out today. It should be relatively fast and sweet. Parliamentary finance. The government's working on preparing the basics of the 2025 general budget to present it to the House of Representatives. So, yeah, we've been talking about the tripartite budget for this is October of 2024, and they still have yet to place or expose the 2024 investment side of the budget. They're still talking about the 2025 budget now. So anyway, we'll get onto that. Little Ophelia just jumped up in my arms. That's why we got a little break there, you guys. Sorry. She's getting on in age, and but she wanted to be on film, so I hope everybody gets a chance to see her pretty eyes. Yeah, that's Ophelia. So kind of matches the surfing picture in the back. They're really blue. Hey, so anyway, back to this article that we have for where Iraq is, etc., and what's going on with the 2025 budget. It looks like they have a mechanism for drafting the federal budget texts and analyzing revenues and expenditures and planning budget items and general programs. Those types of things have been addressed. It goes on to say that this Representative Al Atwani, he basically is stating that the Securities and Commodities Law, the Banking Studies Law, and the Islamic Sukuk Investment Law were necessary amendments, and these laws will be read in the upcoming sessions. Look, they're going to have little updates to their budgets, and they're going to have updates to their laws, and that's just what countries do, and that's what legalities are for. When they find something that's not quite right, they try to fix it, and they do that by amendments. So keep that in mind. But the cool thing is they're talking about Islamic Sukuk Investment Law. That got my attention. The Securities and Commodities Law, attention, and Banking Studies, right? So all of those things are part of what's happening, because you're going to have to engage. You're going to have a country that's going to go international with their stock exchange, and so they're going to have to maintain their laws and make sure that they're suited for international standards. Banking studies, the same. Islamic Sukuk Investment Law. The Islamic religion has a lot of components to it. It's fairly to the point, and you need to follow their guidelines and their instructions. And Sukuk is probably one of the largest forms of investment in the world. They have their Islamic population is very, very large, and they have a lot of money. A lot of them have, and that's great. Good for them. But again, having laws in place to accommodate everyone in Iraq, for instance, is a good thing, because they're a diverse country too. They don't just have Islam. They have Christianity. They have etc. They have different sects, etc. So we'll see how this turns out. Hopefully for the best for everybody. He goes on to explain that these amendments involve the concerned parties to ensure increased productivity, and they're listening to various opinions to ensure their effectiveness and the cool part is their implementation. Okay, so there's always going to be amendments. We all know that. Updating relevant laws to smooth out any bumps in the road is probably quite normal. The tripartite budget, for instance, they probably had some bumps along the way. Obviously, they haven't exposed the 2024 investment side of the budget. We know that the operational side. Yeah, we know the operational side of the budget's been taken care of. So, but that key component of the investment side, I think everybody knows that Al Sudani has been talking about and showing that there's been large amounts of money that's come into Iraq to help pay for things, and realize that some infrastructure components to Iraq, when it talks about infrastructure, etc., is part of that 2020 2019 budget. It's you have some capabilities of tapping into specific things, but when it really comes down to the bolder side of the investment side of the budget, that hasn't been exposed yet. It hasn't been published in the Gazette from the amendments. They published the 23, 24, 25 budget. Of course they did, and that's in the Gazette. But the amendments that they've adjusted haven't been for 2024 just yet. So hopefully they'll expose that at any time. So keep that in mind. And so when you see all the investments, I said what was articles out for 100 billion investment for access to foreign investment in Iraq. There was another article that talked about 86 billion. So there's a lot of money coming into the Iraq that is being prepared to run businesses. A lot of that money also is, remember, they're in partnership with the government. They've been honored or given sovereign guarantees, for instance. They've got stuff like that. So keep that in mind. But moving on, the banking reform methodology for the central bank of 2016 to 2026. Al-Nasuri, as you guys all know, he's an advisor, and he's been around for a long period of time. He's doing a report from the past. It's interesting because I do that, as you guys know. And some people, they don't want to hear what happened in the past, but if you go back in the past, you can see how much progress they've made. And he's doing that here. It says the steps of the banking reform the central bank has been taking since 2016 began when central bank governor Mohsen Al-Alak was appointed governor of the central bank back in 2014. Okay, and then again later, here not in more recent times, he has been reassigned again on the January 23rd of 2023. So he's back at the helm. He was here for a while, left, went to the Arab Monetary Fund, and then he came back. And they did that for a reason. And I would assume that's because of his expertise and his capabilities. To the begrudging of the media at times, and to political sides that don't appreciate him, and they didn't want his project to lead to zeros to exist or to keep even going, because that cash cow that they've had called the auctions, okay, the dollar auctions, will likely do exactly what al-Sudani has said. When the dinar is stronger than the dollar, it'll probably cease to exist as we know it. And the Central Bank of Iraq has also specifically stated that the dollar auction will cease to exist within now to the end of the year. So central bank says here worked from 2016 to 2020 to address the effects of the economic and security shocks. So we know that what was 2016? ISIS. Okay, one of the most prominent, which is the government's inability to pay employees and salaries. Is that still going on? Seems like it. And why? Well, they haven't, at this stage of the game, they haven't adjusted their exchange rate in this particular case for the investment budget, and you have to ask yourself, why haven't they done that yet? Well, probably because it has to deal with those amendments, the ones that we haven't seen exposed yet. So the central bank has been able to use foreign exchange reserves and methods of rediscounting the treasury transfers and government support in the amount of approximately 16 trillion. The crisis had been overcome at that time. So from 2016 to 2020, Mohsen Al-Alak did specific things to do stuff. Here it says, in 2015, in light of those difficult conditions, the central bank began to move to develop its plans for the coming years and draw up a methodology for banking reform, structure, technical, and administrative development in the central bank. So they've moved on. They've gone on and state that they have a strategy for 2016 through 2020, which included 5 main objectives, and they go on to tell you what those objectives, how many objectives they are. 140 subjectives. 129 of those were achieved at a rate of about 92%. So then the implementing the strategy was relatively successful up until that time, and it contributed to establishing the basic structures and pillars for moving to a new stage of financial and banking reforms, accompanied by the strategic banking project plans for 2019 to 2023. So it's moving forward. The issuance of the second strategy, 2021 and 2023, to complete achievement of the objectives that could not be implemented in the first strategy, numbering 11 sub-objectives during which the government continued to resort to the central bank. And they talk about the trillions of dinars, and then what the government became was effectively somewhere around 46 trillion dinars. So since the governor of the central bank began back in 2023, what was it? Yeah, early, mid, late, doesn't matter. January, okay. It says that the foundations were built and set for the goals that this new strategy for 2024, so that's this year, 2026, basically was derived from those sub-goals and et cetera, economic policies, strategy for financial and banking reforms they adopted by the government, okay. They go on at what law it was. It dates back to Central Bank Law number 56, 2004. So in that law is the basis of 24-26. Okay, 24 to 2026. It included programs with clear goals and initiatives for a period of 3 years in a special, complex economic and financial circumstance fraught with risks and challenges at the time of, and the level of internal and external economic and financial relations. Okay, so interesting that they use that. The new strategy for the years 2024 to 2026. And we're just started in they're talking about this 3-year process. So they sounds like they're suggesting that they have extended a 3-year tripartite budget to include 2026. So what happened to 2023? Oh, was that just an operational side of the budget? And that's what they've done? I don't know. That's what it sounds like. But here it stated, it says 2024 and through 2026. So that's 24, 25, and 26. And they haven't yet exposed the investment side of the budget. So keep that in mind. It's something to think about. It means to me that they're going to do something that may be just a slight bit different than what they set out to do. Why? Maybe they just weren't ready for it yet. Maybe that's what it was. But we'll find out. Anyway, it says, what are some of these things that they're going to be identifying? At the end of the day, they have 7 goals, 24 sub-goals, 75 initiatives to achieve in the main and sub-goals, charted the path for banking and financial reform according to the following strategic goals. 1, supporting and enhancing monetary stability. 2, enhancing digital transformation, activating electronic payment, and supporting cybersecurity, enhancing financial inclusion, maintaining a sound financial system, developing the organizational structure and developing human resources, capabilities, enhancing the position of the central bank locally and internationally, and enhancing compliance of the banking sector and the non-banking institution sector in line with international standards. So all of those things, if you think about it, as far as supporting enhancing monetary stability, they've been doing that. Enhancing digital transformation, activating electronic payments, supporting cybersecurity, doing that. Enhancing financial inclusion, they've been doing that. Maintaining a sound financial system, kept inflation straight, low, consistent. Developing organizational structure and developing human resources capabilities. Exactly. They've got nothing but opportunity for what? Human resources. Why? Creating jobs. Who's gonna fill those jobs? Human resources. Okay, and their capabilities. So they're qualified. They're going to have technical schools, etc. They're going to have that ability to be able to enhance the population's ability to be able to take care and be competitive in a new market economy. Enhancing compliance of the banking sector and the non-banking institutions sector in line with international standards. Well, of course they have. What are they doing? They're using companies like Ernst & Young, auditing companies, partnerships with private banking, financial institutions. Okay? So you see that the partnerships that they're talking about, with these sovereign guarantees with other international businesses coming in effectively like droves. This is pretty powerful, you guys, because this is like the end stage. And this report here from Al Nasuri, I believe it is, is effectively telling you a roadmap, what they've done, and it's awesome. It says here what has been presented for the last 10 years of the financial and banking reform process confirms that the next 2 years will be inevitably result in the transition to comprehensive and radical reform of the Iraqi banking sector and its transformation into a solid sector that contributes to sustainable development. Okay, so all of that, if it's already been done, basically now you're going to watch the process. They're probably going to study it for the next 2 years. They're going to, I believe, they will show and expose the real effective exchange rate to the currency. And obviously, there'll be a period of time that's going to come by that they're going to monitor and adjust, just like the laws. It doesn't matter what the exchange rate is when it comes to specific things, they have to make adjustments for items that need to be looked at. Things change in societies and cultures, so it's pretty good. Basically, this whole report right here is a really good report. You'll find it in patreon.com/MM&C, and come in and check it out, and you'll be able to read it on your own. Basically, it's a good understanding. It basically will still state that there is a need to report on the tripartite budget. They have yet to do so. It's basically the investment side of the budget. But what have we been seeing lately? They're talking about nothing but investment. Hundreds of billions of dollars in investment. And what are they going to be doing? They're going to be building the infrastructure, the roads, port-o-file. All of those different things are going to have components. They're going to create an environment that are going to need to know what the value of their assets are. Here's an article too that, Al-Sari census guarantees fair distribution of wealth and parliamentary representation for the governance. This is an interesting article too. The head of State Powers Bloc, MP Fatal Al-Sari, stressed that the importance of a population census is ensuring the fair distribution of wealth. Okay, it's not talking about specifically that you have to wait for the census to be completed so that we can have fair distribution of the wealth. Basically, I believe, I'll get into it, but I'm going to read this other part here. It says he's stressing the importance of this project in ensuring fair distribution of wealth and ensuring fair parliamentary representation for all governance, in addition to its developmental importance in understanding the Iraqi reality in all its details and drawing up future policies in all its fields. Okay, so Iraq census requirements. Okay, this is how I'll try to pull this off. I'm going to give you guys an understanding of it. Technology. Okay, census will use tablets to collect the data. Will be based on the use of geographic information systems, GIS, and other geospatial technologies. Okay, questions. The census will ask questions about housing status, education, health, work, and access to services. It says as a scope is the next item that they'll be talking about. It says the census will count the population, housing, industrial and commercial establishments, agricultural land, and infrastructure. Okay. Exclusion. Displaced persons and refugees will not be included in the count. So, when is this scheduled for? Well, I believe it's scheduled for November 20th, 2024. And it will be accompanied by a 2-day curfew in all Iraqi provinces. Okay, so during that time, it'll be under curfew. Okay, has it been delayed before? It has. But are they going to do it this time? Sounds like it. Okay, there's nothing in this data in that report. You can find it in MM&C crew, militiamanandcrew.com. Okay, it says there's nothing in this data that tells me there's a connection to the census and any relationship with the project to delete the zeros for the exchange rate. However, the issue of distribution of wealth being fair, okay, I understand that. That will be an ongoing concern for the foreseeable future, regardless of what happens. Economies ebb and flow over time, just as the country's income will fluctuate over time. The census will along the way help in their fair distribution of the wealth at whatever exchange rate the country uses. Whether it's at $13.10, whether it's at $14.50, whether it's at $1 or more. They're still going to have to do what they said. which is going to be, it's going to collect data based off what? Housing status, education, health, work, employment. I mean, it's deep, you guys. There's a lot of components to it. But it's not just about the HCL, for instance. We're not waiting for all of that. However, one thing that you are waiting for is an exchange rate to have valuation on their assets. And that HCL will definitely have a component that will be needed. The following is actually going to be an interesting thing too, is because we've heard a lot about the Iraqi Trade Bank. They're going to be doing a lot of the transitioning for Iraq. This particular article here is the Iraqi Trade Bank opens up new branches in Baghdad. A new branch in Baghdad, I should say. Trade Bank of Iraq opened its new branch located in Baghdad on the Kark side in Mosul area, which increased the number of branches spread throughout the capital and all governance to about 25 branches. It says that Ahmed Sahad al-Khazarjai said the statement that the management of the Iraqi Trade Bank is working to implement all the directives of Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani in developing all banking services provided to customers and increasing the number of bank branches in general in order to provide services and facilitate banking procedures and all requirements that meet the needs of the public. So that's the focus. Al-Sudani has always been about that. The trade bank is steady and taking steady steps. They're solid steps, enhancing financial inclusion, supporting the Iraqi national economy. And what are they doing? They're providing banking financial services. What is that going to do? It's going to support commercial operations. Commercial operations are going to be done in the dinar in the future. That's in country, which in turn will lead to supporting the process of importing raw materials for various sectors, industrial items, foods, and others. Many other things. But in addition to providing support and banking assistance for the reconstruction operations, infrastructure development, and again, various other sectors. So the bank is basically affirming that its full commitment to enhancing financial transparency. Financial transparency reminds me of the blockchain. Applying corporate governance standards and audit, applying corporate governance standards for banks, and providing innovative financial solutions that meet the needs of the customers for various sectors, in addition to its efforts to enhance and support investment and trade in Iraq and support development projects in a way that contributes to achieving economic stability and sustainable growth. Powerful comments, because it's all about going to a market economy and doing what? Developing the country. And taking care of customers, taking care of the people, taking care of the goods and services that they need. And the bank, Iraqi Trade Bank, is going to be one that's going to be used. Just as is, at the end of the day, the Rafadain and the Rashid Bank and the Iraqi Trade Bank and the other baby banks that are going to be coming in on board, they're all going to be in compliance with international standards. Fascinating stuff, okay? I would not be surprised to see that there be more on the partnerships with the state banks and that private sector, because we've seen that private partnerships. Many of the big businesses and stuff are going in partnership. They're not becoming on their own. They're going to be in partnership with the country. I believe Rashid Bank and Rafadain banks will be very important at this time. They haven't really exposed it just yet, but we know about it because Ernst & Young has a contract, and it's in the news again today. I don't have it with me tonight, but it's out there. There's mention of it, that these two banks subsequently many banks will be involved, but these two could be a very important part of the end of the road, for instance, going into that international market. Telltale signs support that. And what they say, as far as, I believe it's the IMF Article 4 compliance, Article 4 consultations, the originals talked about the private banks. The public banks
which is owned by the government, will become partnership and go to private. Okay? That's what they're talking about, merging them. And they talked about that in their original consultations, that's the goal in the future. And here we are. We know that Ernst & Young has been hired contracted to do that. And so we're actually literally watching. They could surprise us at how far along they are at any time. But we can see that they have the systems in place and ready. That's the biggest takeaway. So basically, again, the Rashid Raffidain banks were effectively, in my view, probably one of the most important. Again, subsequent smaller banks thereafter will go. The growth for the Iraqi Trade Bank is not surprising at this juncture in time. Well, why would you have a new branch if you're not growing? Okay. And basically, it's during a time when Iraq is really going through one of those components I just read out, digital transformation. Iraq's reconstruction efforts are going to be needing large quantities of raw materials, as they mentioned, in various sectors. What sectors are we talking about? Commercial, industrial, food sectors, probably clothing, all kinds of things for the citizens. Everything that's needed to maintain and promote the business. So it's the tools. It's all of the things that are needed to rebuild the country. Banks like this one will be helpful in making sure that there's money flow to make it all happen. They won't be the only bank, but they're going to be one of the main banks. The reconstruction of a war-torn country is massive. I think everybody realizes that by now. If you've been invested in this for a long period of time and have done your research, to know, just like, back in World War II, what did we have? We had Germany, we had Japan. What happened to those countries? They got destroyed, sadly. But what did they do? They built them back to powerhouses. Iraq's going to be another powerhouse. The Port of Fao is going to support that. Development Road's going to support that. It's going to be huge. And this is what they're doing at this stage in time. Iraq is looking for that economic stability and their sustainable growth. And so is the world. So is the international financial system, the WTO. The recent 2024 Article 4 consultation, I suggest you guys go out and read it. 68 pages. I've posted it. I posted a link, patreon.com/MM&Crew. You can Google search it. I'm terrible with you guys. But you can search in my room for it. You'll find it. It's powerful because if you pay attention to what it says, if you do a typical Control F key when you're in a document like PDF file, you can find specific buzzwords. So you can go in and type in banks. First thing, I suggest you do it. And look at what all they do is talk about banks, but they talk about restructuring banks. And they talk about who's in it. They also talk about the importance of certain things. And they talk about the importance of that stuff that's happening. Restructuring banks, WTO. Okay? Guess who they mention? Aside from JP Morgan. I didn't even look for that. You guys could do that for me. But they mentioned Citibank. Yeah, you got to pay attention. They have some really good stuff. And basically what it does for me, it gives me confidence. That's why I've always got confidence. I try to bring the truth, I try to bring the reality, and I try to bring you the news the best I can. All right, you guys? So please, hey, enjoy tonight's call or show, if you will, whatever you want to call it. But hey, I appreciate it. Hit that like button, subscribe, and again, all those folks that have been hitting Zelle, PayPal, and Venmo to help support us, perfect. You guys, thank you so much. Much appreciated. Have a great evening.
Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content, subscribe to the channel, or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.